Hey there, and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to dive into this really powerful idea. It's a metaphor for personal transformation that comes from the devotional text, Jesus Calling. And it's all about a journey that totally redefines what we think of as beauty, trust, and, where we actually find our security.
So the whole journey kicks off with this really profound invitation. And it sounds incredible, right? But what does that actually mean, the beauty of holiness? Like, is it about looking a certain way or maybe achieving some kind of, perfect behavior?
Well, the source material is super clear on this one. It has absolutely nothing to do with what we see in the mirror. Nope. It's all about an inner beauty, something that starts to reflect God's own nature. You could think of it as like an internal harmony, a character that shows purity and goodness and love. So really, it's a call to worship not just with our songs or our prayers, but with our entire being.
Okay, so if this beauty is all internal, then how in the world do we cultivate it, right? Well, this is where the text brings in a really compelling metaphor to help us get our heads around it, the idea of the divine artist.
Just imagine this for a second. Your inner life is like an artist's studio, and God is the master artist in there, working away to create a masterpiece inside you. It's such a powerful image, isn't it? It's not some distant judge, but a really intimate creator who's deeply invested in crafting something beautiful right there within us.
But here's the thing. This artist's method, it might actually surprise you. See, the creative process doesn't start by adding a bunch of new, beautiful things. It starts by taking things away.
I mean, think about it. A sculptor has to chip away all that excess stone to find the statue inside, right? Or a painter needs a totally clean canvas. It's the same idea here. The divine artist's first job is to clear out all the clutter. Before any real creating can happen, the artist has to make space.
So, what is this clutter we're talking about? Well, some of it is the obvious stuff. Bad habits, feelings of bitterness, unforgiveness. But it can also be a lot more subtle. Things like excessive worry or our own ambitions that we're holding on to for dear life. It could even be those seemingly harmless distractions that just fill up all the space and prevent God from having any room to work.
Now, this whole clearing process, it isn't something that just happens to us, passively. The artist actually invites us to participate. And that, of course, brings up a big question. What is our role in the studio?
Right, so what is our part in all this? If the artist is the one doing the clearing, what are we supposed to be doing? Well, the answer isn't to just grab a shovel and start digging ourselves. It's actually something much simpler, and yet somehow so much harder.
Our part, it turns out, is simply a willingness to let go. That's it. So our job isn't the heavy lifting, it's the releasing. When the artist points to a piece of clutter, our role is just to open our hands and allow it to be taken away.
And let's be real for a second. That is so hard to do. It goes against every human instinct we have, right? Our instinct is to hold on, to control everything, to manage our own lives. We have this deep-seated belief that grasping things tightly is what keeps us safe. So this invitation to just let go, well, it creates this massive internal conflict between our fear and the artist's call to trust.
So, how do we get over that fear? How do we ever let go? Well, the source offers a really powerful promise here. It's like a whole new way of thinking about what security even is.
This is the bedrock, the foundation for our trust. The artist basically says, look, I know what you need, and I promise I will supply all of it. And that one promise completely reframes the whole process. Suddenly, letting go isn't about stepping into some empty void or into scarcity. It's the pathway to receiving true, abundant provision from a source that's so much bigger than ourselves.
This comparison here really drives home the shift we're being invited to make. On the one hand, you have our default security, right? It's based on possessions, on our circumstances, things that are constantly changing, like shifting sand. But on the other hand, there's this invited security, and that is based on God's presence, something that completely transcends our circumstances. It's a massive shift, moving away from a life driven by control and fear, and toward one that's rooted in trust and release.
And this leads to a pretty radical idea of what contentment really is. It means our inner peace is no longer a hostage to our external situation. We can actually find satisfaction in God's presence itself, whether we're in a time of plenty or a time of lack. Now that is a truly unshakable foundation to build your life on.
But of course, this kind of deep, profound trust, it doesn't just magically appear overnight. The source is really clear that it's more like a muscle. You have to intentionally develop it, you have to strengthen it over time.
So how do we train this muscle? Well, the source gives us a really clear two-part spiritual exercise. Think of it like this. The first part is the practice. In every single situation, big or small, we make an active, conscious choice to trust. And the second part is the fuel. We have to continually gaze on His beauty by meditating on His character. Let's talk about that fuel for a second, because it's so important. Gazing on God's beauty just means actively remembering and thinking about His love, His faithfulness, His power. This is not just wishful thinking, okay? It's the very thing that gives us the strength to make that choice to trust, especially when it's really, really hard. It's like the more we focus on the artist, the less power all that clutter has over us.
Okay, so let's bring this all together. The whole journey starts with this invitation to reflect God's inner beauty of holiness. Then we have God, the divine artist, who works inside us by clearing away all the clutter. Our role in all this, it's simply to cooperate, by being willing to let go. And what does that lead to? A whole new kind of security that's based on His presence, not our circumstances. And we build this life of trust piece by piece, through active choices, fueled by focusing on Him.
And that brings us to one final and pretty challenging thought. You know, we usually think of clutter as all the bad stuff, the negative things. But what if the clutter the artist wants to remove also includes the good things we're clinging to? You know, the things we're really proud of, our carefully laid plans, our best talents, even the very identities we've built for ourselves. What would it look like to trust the artist even with those things, to let him create a masterpiece that we could never even imagine on our own?